Yeah, I want to ask a little bit about the Asnaris also. It's my understanding, it's the public's understanding, I think, that it was virtually impossible to mitigate Asnaris. Is that accurate?
It was a prohibition. It is a current prohibition in the statutes that if the fill is in an Asnari, mitigation is not allowed.
Yeah, okay. Are we creating Asnaris in effect with this list? I think there's 7 wetlands that are identified here as exceptions to what this bill is accomplishing to do. Are we in effect creating Asnaris without calling them that?
Well, you know, Asnaris has a very limited purpose within the current statutes, and that is, it simply says if you have as Asnari, you can't mitigate. It's not appropriate to mitigate. It's not appropriate to consider mitigation in your decision. And all we're doing here is establishing a range of wetland types that says the GP may not be appropriate, but it would kick you into an IP process, and mitigation would still be required. So it's really kind of different concepts.
How common are these wetlands that you identified here, Great Lakes Ridge and Swale complexes, interdual wetlands? Do you guys have any sort of sense for that, or data, or anything like that you can, how common are these?
I'm going to refer that to Lisa.
Sure.
Yeah, I can answer that. These are all wetland types that our agency has identified as rare types, so that's part of the reason we suggested them at legislators' request, looking for, what are some of the most high quality plant communities that are rare in the state were some of the first things that we thought of.
There's one that jumps out for me is ephemeral ponds in a wooded setting. Are they rare?
Yes.
How do you define them?
There's sort of a common understanding of definition that's understood by scientists, people who work in the scientific community. The folks who manage our natural heritage inventory at our agency have working definitions for about 30 different wetland community types that they track. So, and we've got some information on the webpage I'd be happy to send you. I don't think I brought it with me.
Is that definition written up? What an ephemeral pond is it contained in rule or statute where someone can say, I've got an ephemeral pond in a wooded setting? I mean, where it's concrete, this is what this is?
The term is used in current administrative code in NR 103. I don't believe it's defined in that code. So it's defined in our natural heritage inventory documentation that's used to administer under that statute.
I would just say to the author who's here, living in northern Wisconsin, and let me ask one more question. Is an ephemeral pond the same as a vernal pool?
Well, I guess I haven't seen vernal pool on a scientific list of rare wetland types, so it's a little hard for me to answer. But ephemeral, in a common understanding, ephemeral means transient, vernal means spring, so they're not necessarily the same.
Okay, because I see the terminology vernal pool used very frequently in EPA documents. In some of the federal documents, they use the term vernal pool. And I'm wondering if we're basically talking about the same thing.
I'm not familiar with that, so I'd be happy to look at whatever information you have from EPA. The ephemeral ponds in wooded settings is one of the approximately 30 wetland plant communities that are natural heritage inventory tracks. So that's a terminology that our agency has used for a long time.
I would just say to the author of the bill, this one concerns me, especially for those of us that sit on the forestry committee. You walk around the woods in northern Wisconsin and you see ephemeral ponds everywhere. I go out my back door and there's, I believe what you would define as an ephemeral pond in a wooded setting. I think you will find them all over. It greatly concerns me for the forest products industry here in Wisconsin, especially in northern Wisconsin. When you look at what's happened on the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest with the U.S. Forest Service and what they've done to virtually wipe out logging on the national forest, we can't afford to have that on private and other public lands that are not federal. It concerns me from that standpoint.
If I could just comment here, that it doesn't require that the department not issue a general permit in an ephemeral pond, but it does give the ability of the department to kick it out into individual permits. So there's some room for further discussion on it, I think.
Let me ask one final question. Does the Army Corps typically restrict their practicable alternatives analysis to the projected or to the project sites or adjacent sites?
I think the Army Corps of Engineers here, I think we should wait for them to answer the question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.